Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel.
We just got back from an incredible cruise through Norway, and today we're sharing all of our tips, tricks, and the little things we wish we had known before we went.
Yep, no matter who you're cruising with, these tips will help you get the absolute most out of your Norway cruise and save some money along the way.
Welcome to World Wanderers.
We're Alicia and Will.
Come wander the world with us.
All right, let's dive in.
We've broken this video down into a few easy sections, from planning and booking to what to pack, what to expect on board, and tips for your port days.
We'll share the biggest things that made our trip smoother and what we do differently next time.
Let's start with some booking tips.
Before we even set sail, there were a few things that we learned the hard way and a few things we definitely did right.
Here are some things you should consider when choosing your itinerary.
The first thing is to find one that sails deep into the fjords. Like, look at the maps and you can see all the little wavy lines and make sure their path actually goes deep into the country.
Yeah, stops in Flåm, Geiranger, Olden, Eidfjord. These are all great places to sail up into, and was probably one of our favorite sailing days, going real deep in and out of the fjord.
Right, for sure. You can just tell when you're looking at the map, but some of the itineraries will just like hit a city and then keep going by and hitting ones all around the perimeter of the country. Those aren't the ones you want. You want at least one or two ports where you're sailing deep in there, because that's what makes Norway really special.
Yeah.
The next is find a port where you can visit a stave church if that's important to you.
Yeah, we thought they were beautiful. We made a point of making sure we got to visit one of the stave churches. For us, it was our stop in Flåm, but there are other stops where you can see them as well.
Right. There's a handful of really famous stave churches, but I feel like that's something that's really unique to Norway and something that had always kind of been on my bucket list and a reason that I wanted to go to Norway. So making sure you find an itinerary that does stop at one, which will allow you enough time to go deep into Norway and find one, was really important for me, and I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, they're beautiful, and you can tell from the carvings how old they are. They're from like the transition from the Viking period to the Norwegian period, and they're really cool to look at.
Right. The next thing is don't be like us and be fooled by Arctic sailing days. I was so disappointed. I thought that when we were looking at the itineraries and there were two different days that were called Arctic sailing days, that we'd be sailing by icebergs and like looking out the window and seeing polar bears, or at least, some killer whales. But these were literally just a clever marketing tactic that were days at sea.
And you won't be able to see everything. We did a 14-night cruise and still need to go back to see a bunch of the other fjords and cities that we want to go to.
Right. So definitely don't feel like you need to hit everything on one trip. I don't even think that would be possible. We chose one of the longest cruises in Norway that we possibly could. And even we only hit about half the ports that we wanted to. So there were shorter sailings as well, which hit even less. So kind of just get in your mind that you're not going to be able to see everything, but just, you can always go back if you need to.
Don't be afraid to splurge on a balcony as well. Like the views going through the fjords definitely make the extra cost of a balcony worth it.
Right. We've been on cruises to all different sorts of places. And this one, out of all the cruises we've been on, was the one where I thought it was the most worthwhile for the money we spent to upgrade from an ocean view or an interior room. We just sat on our balcony tons of times and just looked and got great videos and pictures as we were sailing into and out of ports. And even on sea days, it was really great to take advantage of the extra light hours since we went during the summer. And I feel like we were just out there so much enjoying the beautiful weather and the sea and the sights.
We were on the Celebrity Apex, and one of the few balconies available left when we booked was an aft end balcony. So we went and paid the extra money for it. And honestly, I would even recommend doing that. Like the aft end balcony was perfect to be able to see both sides of the fjord on the way in and out.
Right, because we definitely were seeing different views to the right of the ship versus the left of the ship. And it was really awesome to be able to get the full panoramic view out the back of our cabin. If you want to see what that room looks like, I'll link the video here with the cabin tour, but you can see some of the footage where it was just really amazing. We saw rainbows and it was just beautiful. We even saw the Northern Lights one night, which we'll talk about a little more later. And then also, we want to talk about excursions. In general, excursions are so expensive in Norway.
Yes, especially through the ship. A lot of times you're going to be able to find the exact same or very, very similar excursion, not through your ship, for a significantly lower price.
Right. When we booked this cruise, we even booked for us pretty early. It was a few months out. We knew we were going on the ship, and almost all the excursions were sold out already. So we always check through places like Viator, which have amazing prices and options. But we didn't even have the option to look at some of the ship excursions. But when we were comparing apples and apples to the ship excursions versus the ones available through Viator, which were identical, they were about half the price.
Yeah, and that is a good point to make too. Like some of the more popular things, like the train ride in Flåm, like you need to be looking at months out to get a chance at booking that.
But that's actually a great example. A lot of people on our ship did book the Flåm train through the actual Flåm train website, and they paid so much less for the exact same thing. It was like walk off the ship, get on the train. Like it was steps away. So there was really no need to go through the ship. So there's a really big markup there. So make sure you explore all of your options and just compare with local tour operators first. We use Viator all over the world, and we've never had a bad experience.
Yeah, Viator's been pretty good for us.
Yeah, we did the Land of Trolls excursion through them in Ålesund. And then we also did one in Flåm where we went to the Stave church. So that was something the ship didn't even offer, actually. We had to go through them if we wanted to go. So that was a really great day. Also, don't feel like you need an official excursion in every port. It's really easy to do your own thing.
Yeah, which we did a number of the port stops when we were there, and it turned out great.
Like Honningsvåg, we did that.
Yeah.
We did that in Tromsø. We did it in Trondheim. We did it in Bruges since our ship also stopped in Belgium. But those days were just as great as the official tour days. And Norway makes it really easy to get around without needing a tour guide or using public transit, or even just a lot of the cities were very walkable. So definitely don't be afraid to not have something booked and just get off the ship and see what you see.
Booking this trip is very expensive overall, but once you're there, it can be somewhat affordable.
Right. Actually, we did prepay the gratuities for our ship, and we paid the 2 Viator tours ahead of time. But other than that, we had everything paid for on the ship except for $272. That was our total bill for the 14-night cruise we were on, which I was pretty proud of ourselves because that also included some pretty overpriced drinks that you paid for on the ship.
Some of the celebrity drinks are like crazy high price, like $25 to $30 range.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like the end of the cruise that I found they had a lot of drinks that weren't on their menu that were actually more reasonable in the $14, $15 range.
So anyway,
but they don't put them on their menus.
Yeah, we're calling it a win that we only spent $272.
Yeah.
But I thought for a 2-week cruise that was pretty good. So I felt a little bit like sticker shock when we were booking everything, the flights, the cruise, hotels before and after. And I was looking at, wow, this trip's going to be really expensive. But once we actually got there, sure, you can blow tons of money if you want to, but we found it was actually pretty affordable.
Yeah, some of our port stops, including one of my favorites, Honningsvåg, like we didn't really spend anything. Like we got up the ship,
free.
Hiked up into the mountains, saw some reindeer, and hiked back down, and it was great.
Now let's talk about what to do before cruising.
Once your trip is booked, there are a few important things to do before you actually board.
Yeah, the first thing is going to be set an alarm for your online check-in date if you care about when you're going to get on the ship. We missed ours due to the time change. I just really wasn't thinking, and we got on hours after everybody else. So the early time slots were totally taken.
Yeah, if your cruise departs from Southampton, the smoothest way to get there from London, Heathrow, is just to take an Uber. That's what we ended up doing.
Right. We had planned on taking the National Express bus, but it never arrived. I'm not sure what was going on with that. So we just walked out of the airport and Ubered, which was our backup. And the 1.5 hour drive to Southampton was only $122 US, including a pretty generous tip. So it was super easy and it was really great. I would do that again.
Yeah, and compared to the bus ride, it really wasn't that much more, and it was just easier.
Right, if you have 2 people or more, especially.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And then also, like with most cruises, especially cruises that are leaving from far away from your home, arrive a day or 2 early. We did this and on purpose in order to sightsee, and we had an amazing time.
Yeah, this is like the end of summer, starting to fade into fall, and like the Isle of Wight and Southampton area is beautiful that time of year.
Right. We did videos on both Southampton and the Isle of Wight if you want to check them out, but they could have been their own vacation on their own. We had so much fun, especially the Isle of Wight, which was just super beautiful. Great. And then another tip would be download Google Maps offline so you can navigate without data. We did this for all the ports we were stopping at, and also we did it for the water areas surrounding Norway as well. So that was super cool to see exactly like where and when we crossed the Arctic Circle and when we passed the North Cape. It was something we were constantly looking at on our phones, and we were glad we had that, even though we didn't have the internet package on the ship.
And if you're going up there in the Arctic Circle, make sure you download the Aurora app.
Yes, definitely. This is an app that will alert you when the northern lights are visible in your location. I have this on my phone all the time. I randomly caught them when I was in Missouri one time.
Oh, yeah.
And we've also gotten alerts in Florida on occasional times. But in Norway, obviously, you're going to have a much higher chance of seeing them. So we finally did see them on, I feel like the fourth or fifth last night of our cruise.
Yeah, it was somewhere in there.
Yeah, and they were so beautiful. We saw them on September 2nd, so it's not just in winter. So make sure you have this app. It's a free app downloaded so that you'll get the alert and wake up and go outside and look at them.
Yep, and our cruise crew was pretty good about like announcing when they might be coming out, but it's still worth having the app just so you know in case they don't.
Right, and then you don't have to hang out outside literally all night looking for them because they did take a while to pop up, and especially if you're not in a balcony cabin where you'll have to like get dressed and go up to the the ship's decks, something that's really helpful.
And when we're talking about apps and data and maps, check your phone coverage for an international plan. Like we use T-Mobile, which works great for us in most places. The data might not be fast enough for whatever you want to do.
But it's free with our phone plan, so like we're fine with it. But if you don't have that, then maybe grab yourself an eSIM because while we were doing it ourselves around the ports, we definitely did use our phone.
Now let's talk about packing.
Packing for Norway can be tricky because the weather changes constantly.
Sometimes you get sunshine, rain, chilly winds all in the same day or the same hour.
Right. And here's what we'd recommend bringing to make sure you're ready for anything.
Yep. Even if the weather is looking cold, make sure you pack some of your like warmer weather, summer type clothes.
I know. I looked at the forecast before we left and it was supposed to be in like the 40s to 50s. So we packed like mostly warm clothes, but then we ended up getting there. And especially on the later half of the cruise, my gosh, we sweat walking around all the time. And at least on our cruise, laundry rooms didn't exist. It was like paper item laundry. So we were re-wearing some stuff that honestly, I wish we had packed a few more summer clothes.
Especially like further south in Norway, where we're like near Trondheim, there will be days that are, it's September and normally it's 55, but today it just happens to be 75 and sunny.
Right. And even on the days that it was like 50s to 60s, by the time we did all these uphill hikes to the viewpoints and stuff, like I was shedding layers like crazy. So layers are going to be key here, but make sure you've got a tank top or something packed because I definitely was sweating.
For me personally, I found that merino wool, both in Mongolia and Norway, any of those really variable climates like that is a perfect item clothing type to wear.
Right. Yeah. They have like antibacterial properties, which means that if you sweat, it doesn't smell, which is good if you're re-wearing.
It's like a miracle fabric. It keeps you warm when it's cold. It wicks the sweat away and like helps you be cool if it's warm. Like I like the merino wool.
Yeah. And then obviously you probably know this, but bring your rain jackets. And also check if your ship provides an umbrella. Ours did, and we did end up using it. But if our ship didn't have one, we definitely would recommend packing one because there was days where it just definitely did rain.
Yeah, and if you want to see the countryside in Norway, you're going to want to bring good walking shoes. We hiked more than we expected to, and we expected to do some hiking, but there's really just no other way to get up into the the hills and mountains and the viewpoints without doing a good bit of hiking.
Right. And I'm normally about the fashion and like how cute my pictures are going to look. But in this destination, I did not feel out of place wearing hiking clothes. Everybody was wearing outdoor or adventure gear. So don't feel the pressure to be fashionable or to not look like a tourist. It was expected.
And when we're talking about going up into the mountains, bear in mind that there are a lot of like windy mountain roads and those buses have air suspension. So if you have any kind of like motion sickness issues like you do, like it's definitely important to bring like Dramamine or something to help you out with that.
Right. I never get seasick. I really don't get sick on planes or anything, but those bus rides, like they were getting me. We took 2 different bus rides through our Viators, and I felt like I was going to throw up both days in a row. So definitely bring some Dramamine. Even if you don't think it's going to happen to you, I would recommend bringing some.
And don't forget to bring a swimsuit.
Yes, the indoor pool on our ship was super popular, and we went there probably 5 or 6 different days. Our ship even had a heated outdoor lap swimming pool that I hit up a few different mornings, which was really nice.
Not to mention the hot tubs are great to like sit in and watch what's going on around the ship because you can see off the ship out of the hot tubs. And if they leave them open late enough, if you go at the right time of year, it might even be a great spot to watch the Northern Lights.
Right. And there were saunas on a bunch of the ships and also saunas in some of the ports as well. That looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, they have like floating saunas that are in the ports. And, you go out, you do your sauna thing, jump in the ice cold water, and then go back into the sauna. So that'd be cool too.
Right. And then speaking of, most ships that cross the Arctic Circle have some kind of fun polar plunge.
Oh, yeah. We painted our noses blue.
Yeah, it was cute. It was like a really big party. I think it was a little bit anticlimactic since it was in the heated outdoor pool. People were acting like it was a big deal. And I was like, I just swam.
They dumped some ice in there.
They did. They dumped some ice in there. They played some music. Yeah. It was super fun to be a part of. So definitely bring your swimsuit for that. But it isn't anything like the polar plunges that are real in like Antarctica where you're jumping into like frigid water. This was like heated 80-degree water.
Yeah, and then they were serving hot chocolate for you when you got out, or hot mulled wine, stuff like that.
So it was cute. So bring a swimsuit. And then also we'd recommend bringing binoculars if you have them.
Hmm.
Our ship actually provided them, and we use them quite often. So we would definitely recommend them.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely good for spotting like waterfalls and wildlife and all the fjord scenery out the windows.
And bring a good camera, or make sure that your phone is updated. And if you've been on the fence about upgrading, the things you're going to film and see and take pictures of in the fjords especially is just beautiful, amazing scenery that you'll hardly find anywhere else.
Right. We took so many good pictures and
Yeah.
videos. Trying to narrow them down after the trip took me like my entire plane ride home. So definitely would also recommend a good zoom lens if you don't bring binoculars, because that was a way for us to really zoom in on what we were seeing out the windows as well, and be like, oh wow, what are we looking at? It was very cool.
If you want to make a interesting video, like the trips out of the fjords, like especially the Flåm fjord day, is just, you get some very, very good video out of that.
Yeah, we time lapsed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also definitely make sure to pack a power bank. I always recommend this for any trip. I literally don't even go an hour out to the gym or something without a power bank with me. But on this kind of trip, you'll definitely need it for all the pictures and photos that you're taking that are going to drain your battery on port days. Also, the days are longer, so I found that my phone battery was dying way earlier, even though it was like 8 p.m., but it felt like it was 4 p.m.
Yeah, at least that time of year. Yeah, there's the sun's out longer.
Okay, now let's do some tips for while you're on board.
There are a few things you'll definitely want to know to make the most of your time on board.
First, like we said before, is don't miss all the sail-ins and sail-outs.
Yeah, for sure.
This was one of the highlights of the trip for me, and why I think a cruise is such a perfect way to see Norway. The scenery is just breathtaking, and some of the best views of the entire trip were on like the few hours on the either side of us sailing into and out of the ports.
Yeah, make sure you're checking like your app or your booking or whatever. You may be part of like the Captain's Club or some of the rewards clubs, which will have their own special sail-in and sail parties, and like those were great too.
Right. And then also keep your cabin curtains shut if you want to sleep in.
Yeah.
The midnight sun, or even a little bit later in the summer, like we were, kept our room bright basically all night. I would wake up super early in the morning, and even in September, I was like, okay, 2 a.m., it's morning, you know? So if you want to sleep in or relax a little, especially on those sea days, make sure you're closing the curtains at night.
Yeah, when you're really far north, that's when it's like that. You know, and it's easier when you're farther south, but like up towards Honningsvåg area, yeah, it's bright all day.
And then when it comes to tipping, if you want to tip on top of the automatic gratuities, make sure you're considering currency. Our ship in particular left from Southampton, England, where they used the pounds. The ATM on the ship gave euros. Our ports were in Norway, where they used Norwegian kroner. And then all ship prices were listed in US dollars. So,
yeah, so we left dollars.
Yeah, so we ended up leaving the little extra for our fabulous room steward in US dollars. And we were glad that we had brought that extra cash with us, because the currency was just all over the place. Also, we'd recommend requesting extra blankets on day one from your steward or deck attendant, because we use this all the time.
Yep, out on our balcony, you know, we'd put the blanket down and wrap up in it, because it does get chilly sometimes out on the balcony, and you'll be wanting to watch things. So you have that blanket and you're just more comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. We even brought ours up to the decks by the pool sometimes, where we just wanted to be out and about with like people and be a little bit more sociable. And it was just really cozy to soak in all the scenery and be warm at the same time.
Yeah, Celebrity had like blankets that were for that. They weren't like your bedding blankets. They were like blankets
they were
taken around on the chairs. Yeah,
but they ran out of them early. I specifically asked, and she was like, let me find some for you. We do not have enough for every passenger, so ask early. And then we just kept ours in our little like beach bag that we brought everywhere with us, and we kept it in our cabin.
And finally, our favorite part, port days.
Norway's ports are absolutely stunning, and we're sure you're going to love anywhere you stop.
Our first tip here is to look for the free viewpoints.
Yes, Norway has tons of overlooks that are just a short hike or walk away from the pier.
Yeah, the first one we went to was Aalesund, and even after our excursion, we still had time to walk around the city, explore, and get up to the viewpoint. It's just right outside the town. Basically, you go to the edge of town, and it's like a big park area, and then it has a staircase that takes you up to the viewpoint.
Right. And Tromsø had a beautiful overlook. This was the main part of our Tromsø day, is that you can either hike up to the top, which we saw tons of people doing, or you can take the funicular if you don't want to do the steps. You can check out this video here that we'll link if you want to see, but that was amazing. Yeah. So you could have done that for completely free if you were willing to walk up the stairs. We just walked down the stairs and we took the funicular up, but that was great.
The Tromsø one, I'll say, definitely takes a little more time. It's a little further out and a little higher up, but definitely worth doing.
Right. And then Honningsvåg, which we talked about, was totally free before.
Yeah.
That was a winding gravel path up the back of the mountain, or Sherpa steps completely up the front of the mountain, which was totally free. And that view was just amazing.
Yep. And again, right outside the little town, and you work your way up to the peak. And then from the peak, you can look around and see where else you might want to hike to.
Right. And then another thing is, we know the cruise food is amazing and it's free and included, which is awesome, but definitely don't be afraid to try the local foods.
Yeah, the waffles, they had the brunost, which there's a whole shop dedicated to that in Allison if you're walking around exploring the town.
Right, and then you had reindeer sausage or reindeer
I had
hot
a reindeer
dog.
hot dog in Tromsø at the little hot dog. It's like a famous little hot dog stand there in bar, and it was really good.
Yeah, so that was a highlight for sure. And then also, while you're in the ports, I always recommend downloading, Google Translate for offline, but this was not needed on this trip at all. Everybody we ran into spoke English, which is amazing because I don't speak anything other than English.
Yeah. And even a lot of the signs that are in Norwegian for a native English speaker aren't that difficult to figure out what the sign's talking about.
Right, and most had English translation right under them anyway. So the language issue was a non-issue at all. Asking questions to anybody was super easy. Also, we did not need a single dollar or penny in Norwegian kroner.
Yeah, that's true.
The entire time we were there, cards were accepted 100% of the places that we went, asked, saw, everything. Also, tipping culture is very minimal in Norway, so we didn't need Norwegian kroner for anything. On our guides, on our tours, none of the guides even mentioned a tip. Nobody was tipping that we saw. Like, it didn't seem expected.
Yeah, I can't think of any examples of tipping when we were there. Like, that was seemed like it was required or expected.
I honestly can't think of other places too where we've been on group tours where tipping wasn't subtly mentioned at the end either. So it just seemed crazy to me. So us not having to trade in extra Norwegian kroner at the end of our trip and lose that exchange rate backwards was awesome. So don't get any Norwegian kroner. You'll be fine. We Apple paid or tap to pay or just used our credit cards everywhere.
Another thing to think about is you're definitely going to want to check the seasonal operating times for whatever attractions you might be visiting. We were there towards the end of the season, and especially in those shorter seasons, like a week or so can change what's available and when it's available.
Right. The cathedral in Trondheim specifically, I'm so glad we showed up 20 minutes before it closed because I literally looked up the hours 3 days before we went on this trip and I was like, okay, cool. It's open till like 6 or 7. And then we got there and they were like, we're closing at 2. And we were like, oh my gosh, thankfully we got in and saw everything we wanted to see in the last 20 minutes. We did miss the Archbishop's Palace next door, which was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, and that cathedral in Trondheim is something you're not going to want to miss. Like it looks like straight out of Frozen. And we've been in a lot of cathedrals and St. Peter's Basilica, and it's easily in my top 2 or 3 favorites.
Right. So, and this is the case throughout a lot of Norway. Their summer hours are obviously way more extensive than their winter hours where they're getting, the majority of tourists during the summer. So definitely just make sure that those must-see things that you want to hit are going to be available and you prioritize them in your day because it would be a really big bummer to miss the main events of the ports you're stopping in. And then also, make sure to look for any wild animals while you're around. We saw reindeer in the northern ports, which are pretty common, and we saw them in Honningsvåg. So that was definitely a highlight for us.
Yeah, if you hike up into the hills outside Honningsvåg, I would recommend bringing your binoculars. And you get up to the peaks, you can start looking down to the valleys and try to find the reindeer herds. Apparently, they frequently wander around that area, and they're around Tromsø and other Arctic ports as well.
Right, and we actually only saw them because we ran into some other people who were walking by us, and just be friendly. And we were like, "Hey, did you see anything that way?" And the guy we randomly saw was like, "Yeah, there's reindeer over there." And I was like, "We wouldn't have gone if we hadn't asked." So just don't be afraid to ask people you see around if there's anything that we should check out.
Okay, so our takeaways from all the ports in Norway. I don't think you can go wrong no matter which ones you choose.
Yeah, every port's been beautiful in its own way, between the real steep fjords around Flåm, or this beautiful town we're in now, right, Trondheim, and even far north of the Arctic in Honningsvåg with the reindeer. Everything's been beautiful.
Right. If you are outdoorsy, or even if you're like me and would describe yourself as indoorsy, I think there's a lot of things outside to do if you're here in the summer and a little bit warmer weather. That's just very awesome and free. So definitely so many good options for things to do here.
And I will say, to get the best out of each stop that we've been on, you do need to bring like comfortable hiking clothes and walking shoes, because other than this one, I think every stop has been involved like a good bit of hiking up to a viewpoint, or go see the reindeer, whatever it was.
That being said, These cities have been very walkable though.
Yes.
We have not needed to get a taxi or really felt like we needed to rent a car anywhere. It's either been bikeable, walkable, there's been lanes for pedestrians. It's been very friendly in that way.
And then prices, I would say, are comparable to like major U.S. metropolitan cities like New York or Miami, or those kind of expenses.
Right. It's definitely not an affordable destination, but I didn't feel like it was like Switzerland where we were like mind blown thinking like, wow, we can't afford anything here. So we're going to see if we can spend a month in some of these places during the right time of year, because there's definitely so much to uncover and a day really isn't enough, but we feel like we got a taste of everything and it's been really great. So if you get the chance, we'd recommend anywhere in Norway. We're definitely going to plan to take another cruise or come back on our own at some point to hit all the different stops we haven't seen, because there are dozens of different places to stop with different things to offer.
And that wraps up our list of Norway cruise tips.
We hope this helps you get ready for your own trip and maybe even avoid a few of the little surprises we ran into.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming travel videos.
If you have any questions about cruising Norway, or if you have tips we didn't mention, drop them in the comments below.
Yeah, we love hearing about tips from you and learning from other travelers as well.
We absolutely loved our time in Norway, and we honestly can't wait to go back.
Yeah, and if you want to see any more from our trip, we'll link a playlist with all of our port stops and our time on the Celebrity Apex right here.
Thanks so much for watching.
Safe travels.